What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Powered by Primus. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about 10 battle cards coming at us from Wave 3 that are good cards. A lot of people have been messaging me asking about what's hot and what's not, and whereas we're not going to be talking about bad cards coming in with Wave 3, we're only going to be talking about 10 good cards coming to us with Wave 3. Now, in addition to these 10 cards, I'm also not going to be putting them in a top 10 list as far as power level goes, so one isn't more powerful than 4, and yada yada yada. Now, before we get into the list, we are so close to 1,000 subs, which is absolutely crazy to say, but we are so close. So if you're watching this and you are not subbed, make sure you do subscribe so you can join this fantastic team that we have here, and you guys can get access to all of our videos as soon as they become available. It will be super sweet. I have some really fun plans for once we do hit that 1,000 mark. Now, getting into the list, and our first card is going to be Battlefield Report. Now, if I had to rank cards, this card is way up there on the power scale. This card is absolutely insane. Now, let's look at the card first. Coming in with a blue battle icon, it is a secret action, which I'm big fan of, and it says reveal one of your character's defense, and then when it does get revealed, you get to draw 2 cards and then put one on top of your deck. So it acts a lot like a reverse incoming transmission as far as on defense side of things go. And that is honestly where the huge power level for this card comes into play. Now, it is an action, so it does take up your action for the turn, which is still perfectly fine because you're going to be using this for a defensive purpose, which allows you to obviously put that card on top of your deck when it comes to before defending, which is really powerful. Drawing 2 cards, putting a double blue pip on top of your deck is really good and is really powerful. Plus, like, drawing cards on defense is always really nice. It just allows you to see a few more cards. Right now, currently, we only have Security Console that allows us to do that. So Battlefield Report coming in is yet another card that does allow us to do these things on defense. If you are running a heavy blue deck, then this is a 3 of in your deck. Now, the next card coming in is going to be Anticipation Engine. This card is really powerful, and I'm a big fan of the card. Now, first off, it is a white battle icon, allowing us to flip 2 more on attack or on defense, and it is a weapon. Now, I will tell you that it makes sense that it's a weapon, not in what it does, but because it was probably way too powerful in the utility or the armor slot, so they had to obviously bring the power level down by putting it in the weapon slot. Before we get into this card with Mining Pick would have been absolutely insane. But it does say when the upgraded character attacks, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's an action, you may play it. Now, this card plays a little differently than Battlefield Legend, but if you've ever gone up against the Battlefield Legend, you know how absolutely powerful this card can be. Being able to get a free action off the top of the deck, it can lead to some insane stuff, whether it's a brainstorm, a leap of faith, even if it's like a leap into battle or something along those lines, is getting an extra action in this game is really powerful, and there are plenty of ways from Wave 2 to be able to plan to make sure the top of our deck is an action card. Now, like I said, with this card, being able to put it on someone like Alpha Trion or a Battlefield Legend can lead to a lot of free actions and a lot of free value, and it can put you really far ahead of your opponent in the game. And like I said, this thing mixed with a Mining Pick would have been absolutely crazy, where you've been able to plant a card on top of your deck, get some extra bonus damage, and then also be able to get it for free off the Anticipation Engine. Would have been kind of crazy. So like I said, I understand that it is a weapon, which does bring down that power level because there are lots of other, I would say, better weapons out there, because this doesn't really give you any plus attack, any plus defense or anything, but it does give you that free action. This card is going to lead to a lot of shenanigans. I'm going to be running it in a deck that you guys are going to be seeing actually tomorrow on the channel, which can lead to some, like I said, some pretty fun stuff. But I do think this card is really powerful, and I think this card is going to be doing a lot of stuff in the meta. Now, our next card coming in here is Level Gamma Disruptor Launcher. Ugh, that is a mouthful, but this card is absolutely crazy. Now, this thing really has a lot of fantastic tools all wrapped into one battle card. First off, it's a blue battle icon, which is fantastic, and really what we want with the deck that it's going to be going in. Now, it is an upgraded weapon. It says put on Shockwave only. Now, you may think that this is kind of a crappy thing. You can only put it on a Shockwave, but let's get into the rest of the card. Now, you can have up to 2 of them in Shockwave's weapon slot. So that means that with having 2 of these onto that Shockwave, you get that base from 6 in his alt mode to 10, and then you get the 7 from the bot mode up to 11 damage, which is super, super crazy numbers. That's the first big benefit. You get to stack these bad boys and you get +4 off of 2 of them. The next thing says that when you put this on Shockwave, your opponent chooses a card from their hand and scraps it. Now, if we're playing both of them, our opponent's going to have to scrap 2 cards, and with Shockwave, that is just so freaking powerful. That is something that he wants so bad. The hand control with Shockwave is absolutely nuts. Now, with +4 and making your opponent discard 2 didn't seem good enough. This thing is also a Decepticon card, and that means that Shockwave can play it off the top of the deck. Yeah, that is pretty good. Being able to get it for free off the top. You do take up your upgrade for the turn by playing it, but it's still perfectly fine, because why wouldn't you want to play this thing right before you get to crack in with that really big Shockwave? Like I said, being able to get it off the top of the deck is really powerful, and if you want to up this thing even greater with its power level, make sure you rock Reclaim from the Constructicon set, which does allow you to put a card on top of, an upgrade on top of your deck from your scrap pile. So if you happen to miss the Disruptor, or if it happened to get flipped during combat, you can put it back on top of the deck and then get it for free with Shockwave. And then the last little fun part is that Reclaim is actually a Decepticon card as well, meaning you can play it for free off the top of the deck with Shockwave. So absolutely, absolutely crazy stuff. Really, really powerful card, even though this can get put only on 2 characters. Arguably, I would just say 1. It is going to be good enough, and if you are playing a Shockwave, you better have 3 of these in your list. The next card coming in is going to be Infiltrate. Now, this one is a interesting one, to say the least. It is a very, very powerful effect. However, I do feel like it does have targeted instances when it's going to be really good. So first off, let's get into the card. It's going to be a blue battle icon, which is obviously really nice, especially for what the ability is doing. It's really what you want. It is a secret action. It does say reveal when when your opponent plays an orange action card. Now, this is where a little bit of the situational thing comes into play, because obviously your opponent has to play an orange action card. Now, with this ability, it says when revealed, you get to scrap that action. It has no effect, essentially countering the card. Now, anytime that you can stop your opponent from playing cards in card games, it gets to be a pretty powerful effect. Being able to make your opponent go to push something that really good, whether they're going to be playing that incoming transmission or even a reckless charge, then scrapping it without having an effect can be really powerful against your opponent. But obviously, like I said, you do have to be going up against an orange deck. So the one thing I would advise with this card is that it goes into your sideboard. Now, if in your meta you're always playing against a bunch of orange, you have a bunch of bugs or a bunch of Dinobob players, whatever the case may be, then definitely mainboard this if you are in your area running into a lot of orange. However, like I said, in most situations, I would personally sideboard this card. Like we talked about here a second ago, with it being able to scrap an opponent's action is pretty powerful. Now, I wanted just to dive a little more into what that essentially does, because a lot of people think that you can easily play around this card, but even playing around it can still give you a benefit as far as the person playing an Infiltrate. Now, let's say we play an Infiltrate and our opponent does play an orange action. Well, we get to scrap it no matter what. You always want to reveal this card to scrap it, because at the end of your opponent's turn, it does indeed fact go away, so there's no point in not playing the card. Anytime that your opponent can't play a card is going to be beneficial. Now, even if your opponent does choose to try to play around Infiltrate and go, okay, well, I'm assuming that they're going to have the Infiltrate, I'm not going to play an action for the turn, you are still benefiting because your opponent is not playing an action. Remember, you really want to make sure you're trying to maximize your turn every single turn by always playing an action or an upgrade. And following the same path with essentially the silver bullets or the really good sideboard cards, we're going to have Dampening Field. Now, Dampening Field is a white battle icon, allowing us to flip 2 more on attack or on defense, but specifically this card is really interesting, especially with the art really kind of giving away what the card does. Now, it does say reveal when one of your characters defends, your opponent can't flip more than 4 battle cards this battle. Now, the really big benefit about this, first off, is that it only affects your opponent flipping battle cards. It does not affect you. So let's say with I would imagine with most of the situations, you're probably going to be running this in a more blue list, really trying to maximize on your defensive side of things when your opponent gets really hindered on the offensive side of things. So if you do have tough or you flip a white pip, you get to keep on flipping cards where, like I said, your opponent gets stuck on 4 battle cards for flipping. Now, the really interesting part about it, like I said, is the art for it. It does have the fire cons being trapped down, which if you know anything about fire cons is that they really are trying to push a crazy amount of orange battle icons. So they're trying to get up, a billion bold. Same thing with Dinobots and bugs. They're usually trying to get a lot of cards to push out there. So Dampening Field is going to be a really good sideboard card to be able to bring in for this matchup. Now, even if you're running a heavy orange list, then even Dampening Field can still be good, because then your opponent, if they're running heavy orange, doesn't get to flip as many battle cards as you do. Now, on defense, it really won't matter for you because you're running a bunch of orange, but it really helps hinder your opponent from pushing a crazy number of damage. Now, I will tell you that I have won many games with playing this card. My opponent goes to play a Power Punch and a Supercharge on like a Barrage or whatever the case may be, and then Dampening Field just really puts a really big hindrance into how many battle cards they do get to flip. But like I said originally with Infiltrate, I think this card is on the same power level. It is definitely going to be a sideboard card that you're going to be able to bring in for those things. But like I said, I would not be mainboarding it unless you are having tons and tons of orange in your meta. Now the next card coming in is going to be Extra Padding. This card I was super excited for when I got spoiled, because I think it is awesome. So it is a blue and a green battle icon. Blue obviously being really nice for defense, and then green meaning we can pick it up after combat, which I think is really important with this card. Now it is an upgrade armor, and it does give us tough 1. So if you're starting to think, well, it's only a 1 blue battle icon for a tough 1, how could it really be? And the fact that the rest of it is where all the power comes from. It says when you put this on a character, you may play another extra padding, and you can have up to 3 extra paddings in 1 armor slot. There it is. That is the beautiful part about this card, is that you can have 3 extra paddings on 1 character, giving you a total of tough 3. Now currently we only have 2 other ways of really being able to push that big tough number. And that's going to be with Evasive Maneuvers, which goes away at the end of the first defense, which kind of sucks. And then with Superior Plating, but you have to obviously go through tech research to get to it, and that's just not really that worth it. So Extra Padding is going to be super awesome. Like I said, the fact that it's a green pip allows us to be able to pick it up, so we can play an additional one to really maximize how many extra paddings that we do have. Now, the other really big benefit about the card is that it's extremely resilient to upgrade hate. So if our opponent does have a ramming speed, vaporize, bashing shield, they only break 1 of our extra paddings. We still have 2 of them left, leaving us with that perfect number of tough 2, and our opponent had to essentially waste an upgrade or an action to get rid of 1 of them. Even if our opponent goes through the added bonus of throwing out another vaporize, ramming speed, or bashing shield to break another extra padding, then we still have tough 1. Our opponent had to go through 2 removals, and we are still on the positive side of things. And that's why this card is on the list, because it's going to be absolutely powerful. And the fact that, like I said, that it has the green is where it really makes up for that difference. Trying to just rely on drawing them would super suck, but being able to have that green means that we're going to be getting them into our hand. Now the next card coming in is going to be Erratic Energy Grenade. Now where I will start with this is the fact that I've yet to find the perfect home for it, but this card on its face is really good. It is a black battle icon, allowing you to get that Pierce 1. It is an upgrade utility, which is probably one of my favorite parts about the card, is that it does go into the utility slot. Makes so much sense as far as flavor and design goes, but it also really helps out because it doesn't take up that armor or that weapon slot. Now the card does say at the start of your turn, do 1 damage to the upgraded character. When the upgraded character is KO'd, you get to deal 2 damage to each enemy, which is really strong. Essentially being able to photon bomb just your opponent is pretty powerful. Now I will say currently I'm running this with my Constructicons. I am running an orange-black list, which does really just try to push as much damage as possible and then not have to worry about the defensive trying to survive part of it, because I'm going to have an Erratic Grenade on my character, so when that character does easily go down, boom, grenade goes off, and I get to do 2 damage to each enemy. Now I do have some gameplay on the channel if you want to go see some of that going on, It was one of my previous matches that I did post. But like I said, it is a very powerful card on the face side of things. Like I said, even with Constructicons, I think it's a really good use of the card. I think that there are still other really good uses for it, and I think this card will find a lot more play in a lot of different decks, even in decks that aren't black, because I don't think that it has to be in a black deck by any means. But you definitely want to be putting this on a character that is going to most likely be going down, whether it's got a small health pool, whether it has Brave, or whether it's an easy target for your opponent to constantly be attacking because it is considered a threat. And this makes the grenade a lot more powerful, because even when they do deal with that character, they have to deal with them taking 2 damage to each of their characters. And if they're a combiner, I mean, they're talking 10 damage to their characters. If it's early game, late game, it still might even be getting in for 6 damage before they combine, so it can lead to a lot of damage. The next thing with this card, and especially why I run it with my Constructicons, is because of cards like Reclaim. Reclaim is just a good card, and it's getting so much better now that with Wave 3, there's a little more things that we can get with it, so I'm super happy. But with Reclaim, especially with the Constructicons, like I was saying, is that you get to put this from your scrap pile on top of your deck, and then if your tower is 3 or higher, you get to then redraw the card. So it's really nice to have your opponent crack into your character, their grenade goes off, does 2 damage to all their characters, you get to untap for your turn, play Reclaim, bring it back to the top of your deck, draw it, play it on your new character that's about to go in for some damage, swing, and then they're back into the same situation with that grenade ready to go off. The next card coming in is going to be Two-Pronged Attack. Now, there's not a whole lot to talk about this card, but this card is good on its face as well. Now, first off, it is an orange battle icon, allowing us to get that extra bit of damage when it comes to attacking. It is an action card, and then it has the fun little effect of choose one of your characters. If it's a tank, your opponent scraps 2 cards from their hand, which is really good and why the card is going to be here. And then also, if it's a plane, then your opponent chooses one of their characters and does 2 damage to it. Now, this effect I'm not a huge fan of, because your opponent gets to choose where the damage goes, and with having a lot of battle masters around and some other stuff that you just don't really want to be targeting, then this side gets a little more confusing. Now, late game, when your opponent only has their 1 big threat left, then obviously cracking in for that little bit of 2 damage is going to be pretty nice, but mainly we're going to be running this card to be able to scrap 2 cards from our opponent's hand at the same time. Now, there's not really any cards that allow us to do this. There are tons of effects that do allow us to get multiple cards in a turn or whatever else, but a straight 2-pronged attack with a tank, just boom, 2 cards out of their hand right away, and taking away opponents' cards in this game from their hand is powerful. Anytime that you can find your opponent or get your opponent to start top decking, you're going to find yourself in a really good spot. Top decking in this game can be a lot more difficult than in most card games, just because you're really relying on what the top of your deck is, and it really comes down to deck building. If your opponent didn't deck build correctly or didn't build to be able to be into those kind of situations, top decking 1 card a turn just isn't going to be good enough, and you're going to slowly start to take advantage of the game, which is where the scrap in this card is, like I said, really powerful. Our next card coming in is going to be Hiding Spot. Now, this card I've been playing so much and in so many decks because I just love how it's designed and really how it plays, because it is a very difficult card to play around. Now, first off, it is a black pip, meaning you get that Pierce 1, although I could argue 100% that this card should be and can be a blank card and still be good enough. Now, it is a secret action, and which means you obviously get to play it face down, and then it does say reveal after your opponent chooses an attacker and before they choose a defender, which is honestly where a large part of the power level for this card comes into play. I'll get into that here in just a second. And it says, when revealed, one of your characters gets stealth until end of turn, which means obviously your opponent cannot attack that character if able, meaning if you have a character tapped down and another character tapped down, you have 1 stealth, they have to go into the unstealth tapped down character if all of your characters are straight, and then obviously it gets stealth as well, and they have to go into someone else. Now, like I was talking about with the power level of this card, and it's in the reveal section of it. Now, there are lots of secret actions with Wave 3, and you're going to be playing a few of them in some of the same similar decks. So usually in a deck that you're going to be playing, you're probably going to have 2 or even 3 secret action cards, so your opponent trying to pick which one that you're going to have down is going to be a little tough already. Now, it's easy to decide as far as what it could be, but doesn't mean that they're going to be playing around it correctly, which is, like I said, where hiding spot becomes powerful, because your opponent specifically has to declare an attacker, which means they have to have already played their action and already played their upgrade for the turn. Now, it's also before they choose a defender, because it really doesn't matter what you give stealth to a character, but they have to choose their attacker, which is big, 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 big. If you had to play this before, it would be a lot less powerful, because your opponent would be able to change targets, be able to change their attacker, however it goes. But let's just say your opponent goes to play a super punch, grenade launcher, whatever the case is, to really jack up this character that they're about to attack with into your perfectly delicious target for them to kind of just one-shot, essentially. And then you get to reveal hiding spot, and your opponent has to send all of that damage, all of those upgrades, all of those actions that they just played, and their really powerful character that they were hoping to just obliterate you with. They now have to waste that attack going into somebody else, and then you get the chance to crack into their really meaty target. So it is a super, super powerful card. I will tell you, I've won multiple games with it, and like I said, it's just the fact that your opponent either doesn't go all out with an attack thinking that you have a hiding spot, and then it really gives you another turn, or they have to just attack with that character if it's their last character not really equipped for battle, which is super, super nice again. Or like I said, they end up wasting a bunch of cards off of it, and then you just really get to benefit from this card. Super, super amazing. Now, the last card coming in is going to be Laser Cutlass. Now, there's really not a whole lot to chat about this card other than the fact that it is just really, really good. It is a blue battle icon, allowing us to get one more of those things on defense. It is an upgraded weapon, and does say put on a character that does have 7 or few stars. Now, I really only want to be playing this on characters that honestly have 7 or fewer stars. I don't really see playing it on the larger characters. I'd probably prefer to be going with Energon Axe on the bigger characters, just because it gives us that +3 attack, whereas the Laser Cutlass only gives us +1 attack. So I actually prefer it on the littler characters, which is why this thing is so good, is that it has tons and tons of juicy targets. Now, it also does give us +1 attack and give us Pierce 3. Now, the +1 attack really isn't super relevant. It usually just results in Pierce 3, but this really just allows those smaller characters to actually get in for damage. Right now, their teams are really interesting. Everyone's trying to figure everything out, the star counts, and now the fact that we have so many more littler characters with Weapon Masters and all the new little characters coming in with Wave 3. So there are tons of things that we're trying to explore right now, but the one thing that is for sure is that there are lots of 7 or fewer star characters running around, and a Laser Cutlass on any of them is good enough. Even some of the smaller characters that have 2 attack, this thing now gives that 3 attack, and then the Pierce 3 will always be going through. And like I said, with the little characters finally being able to actually guarantee damage is really good. So you're going to be seeing lots of Laser Cutlasses, especially like on characters like Flame War or Aimless. In the Superion list, you're going to be seeing this card. So it's going to be all over the place, and it's going to definitely be getting in damage. Alrighty, guys, there is our top 10 list. I don't want to say top 10 list. There is a list of 10 cards for Wave 3 that, like I said, I'm very excited to have gotten. I'm going to be playing a lot of. I am currently playing a lot of. Like I said, a lot of these cards are really good. Now, there are many, many cards that are in Wave 3 that I do think are good, but like I said, these are definitely my targeted top 10 for Wave 3, which is super, super awesome. I think Wave 3 brought a lot of new, really powerful stuff, and it also has shaken up the meta in quite a large amount. Normally, it's like, yeah, I know that a wave is going to come in, it's going to kind of mess some stuff up, but Wave 3 really has changed quite a bit. It is drastically different. I'm really, really excited. There's still tons of things to explore. You guys are going to be seeing a lot of that here on the channel. Obviously, like I said, I'm going to be posting some pretty fun gameplay tomorrow for you guys that does get to focus on some of that new stuff and really get to maximize on kind of an old archetype that you guys haven't seen in a while. So I'm really excited. So make sure you guys come back and check out the channel tomorrow as well. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, a like would be greatly appreciated. Make sure you guys are subscribed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.